we're going to shift gears just a tiny bit now, and I want to come back to sort of people, the main group of our listeners, basically, who are, as I said, they've just gotten started. They, basically their business is going. They're in the growth phase, and they might have had a business for a long time, but they're, for whatever reason, for the season is growth,
Mm-hmm.
and basically because of that, they're either having to go out and ask for business for the first time, or they're having to go out and chase a different sort of business or a higher level product, priced product or service. So for somebody who's just in that, okay, I'm going to have to shift gears now, and I'm now encountering my own fears around sales and my own limiting beliefs, you call them that, and or mindset issues. They can be one or the same or different. What would be some really key things that you think that people should think about, explore, and do to get them from got to do this to okay, I'm starting to develop a little bit of confidence? What would be sort of three or four things that they could do?
Well, the first thing that I think is absolutely crucial in a sales conversation, but also just to prep yourself to pick up that phone or write that email or reach out to that person in some way, is your sales mindset, and in being really protective of your sales mindset. But I actually teach a process. This is from my NLP training, that is known as the NLP mandala. And it's a way to allow for your brain to be thinking about, okay, I'm going to be fully present right now. I'm going to be the best version of myself that I can be. And I'm going to show up from this place of building rapport. So there are 4 steps to it. Are you okay if I kind of go through those 4 steps?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So they're pretty quick, but the idea behind it, first and foremost, is that you have to understand that your brain is so powerful that even if you're not experiencing something, you can invoke those feelings inside your body. So, the one way I give an example of it is, imagine if we were all sitting around a table together, you, me, and all the listeners, and I pull out this like huge basket of lemons. And we start cutting up the lemons, and I give everybody a slice of lemon, and they're just dripping with juice. They're so juicy, these lemons. And I ask each one of you now, go ahead and put this slice of lemon in your mouth and just suck the juice out and like, you know, now as a listener, if you can already feel this in your jaw, your brain is so powerful because there aren't even lemons in the room, right? We're not even sitting at the table together. You didn't just bite down on the lemon, but you know what it feels like in your body, what that feeling of that really tart, now you all need to take a drink of water, I'm sure, something, right? So I want to just remind you before I give you this process that your brain is so powerful that you have the ability to access feelings inside your body, even when you're not experiencing something. So the first saying that you say to yourself, and again, you have to allow yourself to feel this in your body before you go into a sales conversation, is to say, I'm glad I'm here, and know what it feels like when you legitimately are glad to be somewhere. What does that feel like for you? Because now you're starting to access this like excited, this best version of yourself. I'm really glad to be here. That's the first thing you say. And then the second thing is you say, I'm glad you're here. Think about the person you're going to be in conversation with. And what is it like when you show up and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm just so glad this person is here. I'm glad to have their time and their attention. And even if like, what is it like when you get to see your best friend that you haven't seen for a while, or, that favorite family member, or, whoever that person is for you, but just, I'm just so glad you're here. So you say that and you imagine what does it feel like in your body? And then the third thing you say is, I know what I know. And this is your power statement. This is that credibility place. This is where you come in as the expert in what you do, and you go, I know what I know. So that if you get a question that you're unprepared for, or if something happens that derails the conversation in some way, it's okay. It's like water off a duck's back, because you're like, I know what I know. I'm okay not knowing everything and not knowing how the meeting's going to go, but I'm just going to do my best. And then the fourth thing is, I care about you. And when you really show up from a place of caring about the relationship, caring about the person, well, now you're in a really great state of mind. And it allows for you to be the best version of yourself. Now, I teach this And I always give my clients permission to change any of those 4 statements. If there's one that doesn't resonate with you, then change it. And if you hate the whole process of spending, a couple minutes accessing this in your body, then come up with some other way to manage your internal state, because it's been proven. They've done studies, people who go into these high intense negotiations and they ask them, like, how do you handle these high stress negotiations? Most all of them will say, I manage my mindset before I go in. They do something to manage their mindset. So that's the first thing. And then the other thing is, think about when you are interacting with this person, whether you're calling them for the first time or you're sending them an email for the first time, it can't be about you. It has to be about them, because them is so much more interesting than you to them, to this person who doesn't know you, doesn't really care what you think, what you want, what you have. They want to know, how is this going to benefit me? And so you have to start using language that is about them. And one example of this, whether you're this is one that you can use when you're writing emails, is you cannot use a bunch of I statements like, I want to tell you about this great new program I have going on, or I'd like to show you, or I'd like some of your time. Because people are like, I don't care what you'd like. I don't care what you know. I don't care what you want. What is in it for me? So instead, use either you statements or ask questions. Instead of saying, I want to show you, ask them, would you be open to looking at or reviewing such and such? Right? Ask a question, start a conversation, stop talking at people and talk with them, even in email. And the way you do that is by asking questions and making it about them. So those are first, like, kind of 2 things I would say to get yourself started and get yourself in the right direction. I don't know how many more you want me to give, so you tell me.
You want to do maybe just one or two more? I want to be
Okay.
respectful of the time, and it amazes me how quickly time just zaps past.
I know it goes so fast. All right. Well, here's the other thing is, in that first kind of starting out piece, I teach a 5-step process. It's my signature approach to the sales conversation. I call it the selling staircase, and there are 5 steps to it. So step 2 in the selling staircase, I'm going to jump ahead to step 2 because it's one of the most missed steps, is you have to be able to create curiosity in your conversations. You have to give enough information for somebody to go, tell me more. Let's schedule a meeting. Let's talk about this. I'd like to tell you a little bit about what's going on for me. So you have to learn how to attract people to you by creating a little curiosity. And I can go into a whole, I know you just said time's flying. So I have a whole, thing about how to create curiosity. I teach it constantly to clients. And the idea is, how do you answer questions? Do you answer questions in a way that has somebody go like, oh, what does that mean? Or tell me a little bit more about that. Not in a way that you're being unclear, but like, for instance, if somebody were to say to you right now, what's going on for you lately? Can you create a little curiosity with your answer? Or do you just say, oh, nothing? Well, that doesn't help your business grow. But if you said, oh, I am just about to launch a master pass for my master classes in 2021. I'm super excited about it. That might get somebody going like, what's a master pass? What's a master class, Nikki? What's that about? Right? It might give me an opportunity to talk a little bit about what that might mean. And then I'm always looking to see, are they going to give me a buying signal? Are they indicating interest in some way? And if they are, my job is to invite them to the next step. And there's very specific language to issue invitations. And frankly, most invitation language is a yes or no question. It's like, is that something you'd like to learn more about? Or is that something we should set up a time to chat about? Or is that something you'd like to get ordered? Or should we schedule your next session? Right? These are all yes or no questions that lead people to the next step. And then the last one I'll wrap up with, which I'm going to jump ahead to step 5. By the way, you don't get to jump steps in the sales conversation. When you're talking to a client, your job is to walk them from step to step. But I'm going to jump steps just for the sake of time and say the other missed step in most sales conversations, and I kind of just gave it away, is that we don't ever ask for the sale. We leave it there. We go like, here's the ways you could work with me. Silence. No. You say, here's the ways that you could work with me. Which would you prefer? Then silence. Now I've issued the close language. I have to get the language out of my mouth, which is that invitation of essentially saying, but in a nicer way, would you like to buy? Yes or no?
That's just, it's just so resonates with me because everything you're saying, I'm thinking, oh, I can tell you story after story about where I've got that wrong, or actually when you finally get to the point where you get it right, it just goes like a bell going off, ding, you know,
Yes.
it feels so good. And that's just fantastic. Look, I really, really appreciate you taking the time to share with us today. Because it's not just me that has this issue, and even though I've made progress, it's something I will always struggle with. But like to turn it. I like to think that I've got to the point where it's not so much a struggle; it's about actually just being much more open to being able to give people value, you know, and turn it into something about the other person. And that's
Yeah.
something that I learned from you. So I really appreciate that. So I know that you've got something called the Sales Maven Society, and you do have some things that you offer for people that can help people out if they're needing help in this area. Do you want to talk just very briefly about those?
Yeah, so the Sales Maven Society is my monthly membership program, and this is for people who are really wanting to learn how to hone their selling skills and appreciate having a guide, somebody they can reach out to and ask questions along the way, like, hey, this just happened. What should I say or do next? Or I'm about to send this, offer out. Can you take a look at it and give me some feedback? So that's what the Sales Maven Society is. Plus, it's all, not all, but it's the big majority of my sales training. I teach all the fundamentals of sales in that group. So it's a monthly group. It's an amazing group for people who want to connect with other like-minded business owners and want to have access to me as the guide to support them on their sales journey. And we have people who come in for a month and, get what they can and leave. And we have people who come in and stay. I think I have people right now that just are celebrating their 4th year in the group, that love to have that access, love to contribute to the group, but also like to be able to ask me questions along the way as their business continues to expand and grow. So that's what the Sales Maven Society is. And if there's somebody out there who's like, I could use a little help with sales, come check it out. We'd love to have you in the group. It's an amazing group of people. I always say I have to pinch myself every day, that I get to hang out with such a cool group of business owners from around the world.
That's fantastic. No, thank you so much, Nikki. And what we'll do is we'll put a bunch of these links up in the show notes because I know you've got a podcast because I listen to it, and you've got your Sales Maven Society, and you've got some other things. And I think you mentioned something that you've got something for the listeners as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely. So, for the listeners who would like a little bit of a deeper dive around kind of those last 3 steps in the selling staircase, I have a book called Closing the Sale. It's an ebook. It's a really short, quick read, which most of my books are because I like quick, short tips. And your listeners can go get that, download it for free by going to your salesmaven, maven.com/launch. So, this is specific for your listeners. Please go download that as my gift to you. So it's yoursalesmaven.com/launch, and you'll get the Closing the Sale ebook.
Great, fantastic. Thank you so much. That's just been great.